First of all, I think it's really important to thank the Monte Verde Institute. Not only the people who are here now, but years ago, the people who were visionaries and created this. You know, I don't know how, I don't know the history, but I know some people a long time ago took crazy chances and did things that probably people told them they were nuts. And that's why we're sitting here. And so I think it's really important to recognize them. I normally do presentations in Spanish. I'm not going to today because I didn't really have time to get my Spanish in order for this. So, but but if you want to ask questions at the end in Spanish, please do. I've already learned a lot today. I learned about roller coasters. I learned about, there was a term I wrote down, I better repeat this one. Colonizing students' minds. That was a good one. I really like that one. I saw a picture of the only condemned bull ring in Costa Rica, I'm pretty sure, which I was kind of happy to see. We have two organizations, Applied Hope Foundation. We're located in Aguacate, which is between Tiburon and Nuevo Arenal on the lake. We're new, and actually, in many ways, and people have heard me say this, Monte Verde Institute is kind of a role model for where we would like to go. I hope it doesn't take us 30 years to get there. I hope it's 5 or 10, but there's a lot to be learned from the experience here. And I think a lot of times us in the environmental movement are pretty poor mentors and don't really collaborate as well as we should. But what's happening here today is a perfect example of change in that regard, and it's a positive change. We also have a for-profit education company. So the topic today is agents of change. The world needs agents of change. We know we're approaching many tipping points, and it's easy to be doom and gloom about the environmental situation today. But environmental ed has never been more important than it is now. It's never been more in demand than it is now. And the need for people who are effective and empowered and educated and can do something to solving these problems has never been greater than it is now. So the demand for these people is here. Here's a little bit on tipping points. You'll see and hear me refer a lot to Sir Ken Robinson. I'm one of the founders of an organization started by his family called the Creative Revolution. So you'll see me and hear me refer to Sir Ken Robinson a lot. I believe he had some really visionary ideas on education. So, you know, and how we communicate these issues is important. When you show a picture like this, that's all the water on Earth, that's all the liquid water, and that's all the water in lakes. It is a way of communicating just how fragile ecosystems really can be in a way that people can comprehend maybe a little more easily than the big, scary stories that we often end up telling. So we know we need to achieve these SDGs. We know some of them are sort of on target, but generally most of these goals will not be achieved on time. So people are looking for agents of change, and education also needs to change with it. The first presentation today for me was like medicine, hearing her talk about inequalities, and I've had a checkered career with education myself. I haven't always fit in well with traditional education in universities. And so I think, you know, clearly traditional college education, at least for North Americans, is not as dominant as it used to be. I went to Berkeley, and last year I was lucky enough to be able to give a guest lecture to my old department at Berkeley. This is a very highly prestigious organization, and the students are scared. I asked the professor, what's up with them? Where are they? He said they're stressed out and worried because most of them don't have jobs. And this is 100 seniors from environmental science policy and management at Berkeley, #1 rated environmental curriculum in the world, and they don't have jobs. This scares me, and I feel a responsibility to try to do something about that. When I went there were like 180 students in the major, and I don't think 10 of them ended up in careers in environment. That was a long time ago. But that's a brain drain that I don't think we can afford, and I think we owe it to them to be able to have them be able to apply their passions where they can feel most fulfilled as well. Learning is changing, obviously. A la carte learning is booming, right? So here's a study from Deloitte. Nearly all Gen Zs and millennials want purpose-driven work. I won't read all of this for you. 46% have or plan to or already have changed jobs because of climate issues. 6 in 10 want to believe they can change the organizations they join. And sustainability continues to be one of their top priorities. That study would have been radically different 20 years ago. McKinsey report from 2022, again, talking about the desire for people to want more than just a paycheck. This is very American. This is very North American studies, by the way. Very limited. My research for this was very targeted in North America. Except for this. So there's a big World Economic Forum study that came out recently, 800 companies, 11 million workers, 45 different economies. Application of ESG standards is going to have a significant impact over the next few years. The largest job creation sources are environment, technology, and economic trends in terms of destroying and creating new job opportunities. AI and machine learning specialists are the top in-demand predicted growth area for jobs, but sustainability consultants are right there. One thing I almost added to this presentation, I'm not going to, but that little word, those two little letters right there at the beginning, what is the impact of AI going to be in our discipline? I haven't a clue. I'm beginning to think about it, but I know it's something that we will increasingly need to think about and manage. I mean, some of the possibilities are incredible in that, like Priyat's lab in Senat here, they can crunch numbers from drone studies of forest and forest canopy that, I was trained to do that manually. It would have taken me 3-4 months to do it, by which time the data is irrelevant because it's rainy season or whatever. And they can do it in days. So now add AI to GIS and I don't know what it means, but it's certainly going to have an impact. These trends cut across many disciplines. It's not just environmental studies and tropical conservation and biologists, it's business majors and lawyers. Stanford has the Dorr School of Sustainability, and they don't teach classes. Huge new department at Stanford, sitting on some of the most valuable real estate on planet Earth. They don't teach classes. They inoculate sustainability into every department at Stanford, from medicine to geography to literature. Really interesting. Obviously, STEM is an area that's going to continues to grow in its need to embrace sustainability topics. And beyond just graduates and people coming out of education, churn is important. Like, I've had a few meetings recently, and there's a lot of people doing career change, and they want to move into sustainability too, and it's important not to forget them, because they're more likely to need a la carte or a non-university. They're 40, they're 50, they're changing into a sustainability career. It's unlikely they're going to want to go back to do a new undergrad. And they're a big part of the population, 23% churn, just passive churn in the economy every 5 years. So the employment market's changing, and what opportunities are out there for the people in studying environmental science at Berkeley right now are changing, and are going to continue to change. And we need to equip them. We need to help them excel. Now, obviously, one thing that the university grads I've been talking to lately say is they lack practical experience. And I think one thing that's really, I've misnumbered it, sorry. One of the most important things about that practical experience, like an internship or a volunteer experience, is making sure they're not in the wrong job. We ask kids at 15, 16, 17 to define their future. I did. I was asked that, and I answered all the questions wrong. I did everything wrong, right? I went in all the wrong directions. It's unrealistic to expect that from it. Now, some people know at 15 exactly what they want to do, and they go for it, and I hate them, but I admire them, actually. But that's not the reality. So getting them into an internship, I spoke to somebody the other day, and she wanted to be a park ranger. That was her thing. Ranger Rick Club, you know. I want to be a ranger. She studied, she got her degree, she started, but luckily before she finished her degree, actually, she did like an internship at a state park. And she found out she was going to be cleaning toilets, writing parking tickets, and a lot of things that had nothing to do with the environment. And she said, thank God for that internship, because I would have spent years in a career I hated. And of course, they also present risk to the employer. You know, you're going to hire this person, you have no idea if your investment in them is going to pay off. If they have some skills and some experience, they're just a better investment, right? Now, in my experience, and based on work with my board of advisors and others, there's a bunch of cognitive skills. And I want to thank you very much for helping me realize that I think sometimes I'm too focused on the cognitive. So it's another benefit of a symposium like this. So there are tools out there to help them, right? This is my favorite, personal favorite, Ikigai. I try to most things I do, I think of in terms of Ikigai, right? It's a framework from Japan that can be very beneficial in helping people to find their best purpose. It doesn't really translate. It's kind of what makes you get out of bed in the morning, or what gives your life meaning, right? Then there's Ken Robinson. He did a series of books, but one of them is Finding Your Element, where your element is, I'll paraphrase very badly here, but is what's your best purpose? Finding, and you might not have one. You may be a great pianist and a great baker and a great forester. It's not just like you got one. Some people have one, some have dozens. But anyway, there's protocols that we can help people we can help them by introducing them to it and let them guide themselves through the process of finding where they should really where they belong in terms of sustainability careers in our case. I don't know if any of you have heard of Dual Hochschule, but there are universities in Costa Rica right now that do this. Students go in 4 years, no breaks. It's pretty intensive and hard, but they graduate, so they go 9 months in school. Then for the rest, it's 3 months work, 3 months class, 3 months work, 3 months class. They graduate with 2 years actual hands-on experience. The university I used to teach at did that, and as far as I know, their job placement rate amongst the people who finished was 100% in area of interest. And the students I worked with, every one of them had their job before they graduated. Most of them, their employers didn't care if they graduated. They could have left and had the same job and the same career trajectory if they never got their licenciaturas.
Steven, this is for secondary? Sorry, yeah.
No, it's licenciatura. Bachelor's licenciatura. Invenio University does it, out by Tileran. And I think UCR is toying with this idea. It's a German system, and it works. Mentorship. Obviously, I grew into this field. I realized I think I might be the oldest person here today. I don't know how that happened. But anyway, the world of environmental work I entered was very different than what it is now. Thank God. It's a lot better now. But I still think we don't do a very good job of mentorship and collaboration. We're still a little bit clannish and cliquish, in my opinion. It's a lot better than it used to be. And internships, obviously, but not just any internship. They've got to be good ones. Yeah, there they are. Look, they look happy. But, you know, a lot of students are getting internships that are basically paper-pushing internships. They're not all created equal, and they have to deliver on the students' needs, not just the organization's needs. Okay, so in my case, and the case of my friends, collaborators, mentors, I, over the years, have looked at where, I guess the bottom phrase is the best place, where do environmental projects go to die? Where do they tend to fall down? And this is by no means impartial. A lot of this is opinion, and I hope to catalyze conversation with this. But I, and with a lot of people smarter than me concurring, have found 10 areas where we find the skills that people leave universities with, they don't have it, and that's why projects poop out. Like that, I remember when that was a good idea. Stabilizing stream banks in Northern California with old car bodies, sometimes with a battery still in it. And that's Vietnam, Agent Orange being sprayed. But how many of you know that for many years the U.S. Forest Service sprayed Agent Orange all over the forests of Northern California, Oregon, and Washington? Yeah. That was best practice when I started in university. They just sort of moved away from that as, forestry curriculum recommended that. Okay, so I'll go quickly through the 10. I'm not going to read all of this. Analysis and problem solving, I say garbage in, garbage out. If your initial analysis of the environmental problem is poor, you have missed out on state factors or failed to identify hidden stakeholders, whatever it is, you're unlikely to do better than that initial analysis. And I'm really fascinated with this. Like, what are the models in your head that you use to analyze things? What about precognitive analysis? If I gave you an environmental problem and I frame it in such a way and tell us, find me this solution, how much of your thinking has already been defined before you really gave it any thought? If you're working in fish and wildlife, and I present you something we need a solution to, that context, you are probably going to frame, all your thinking will be framed to some extent and limited compared to somebody who worked in forestry or worked in biodiversity conservation. And I don't think most of us think about that. How am I making these decisions? What are my assumptions, etc.? And there's ways to help people learn this, decision-making skills. Analytical thinking, highest priority for jobs in the next 4 years. Creativity. There's a lot of great creativity tools and exercises you can do, really effective, especially in terms of group productivity. Biomimicry, is a great stimulant for creativity. I've had students just blow my mind with things that they just popped out because they heard about that. More Ken Robinson. I guess I'm a Ken Robinson groupie. Ecosystem valuation, entitlement for ecosystem services. I think everybody here is well familiar with it. I do, and I remember when this started. It was, when I first heard about it was Africa. And they were trying to expand some of the really big parks in Kenya, for example, and Tanzania. And there was this battle between, but I got 1,000 cows here. They're worth $200 a piece. And you want to take that away? What's the value of a lion? Until somebody did a study and found out that a lion walking around in the savannah in East Africa was worth $1.3 million in tourism revenue. And a giraffe is worth $300,000. Right? So beneficial in a way, but I do think that has ethical limitations because it's putting a dollar value on things that maybe should not be quantified and that have a value beyond the economic. And I've seen conversations on payment, on ecosystem valuation, I think go too far towards the economic only. I'm going to fight you because your nuclear power plant versus my state park, which one's more valuable? And that shouldn't just be an economic discussion, in my opinion. Life cycle analysis. If you don't know life cycle analysis in the 21st century, you're not going to get a job. This is it. You've got to know this, from people who work in banks to investment to construction, everything. And it also helps you inform your own actions, learn your own footprint. It's just a fact of life in so many industries now. Corporate Sustainability and Economics. Here's 2 great books that are kind of foundational in helping you understand it. But being able to make the corporate sustainability argument can be useful even if you're a biologist in the children's eternal forest. There are places where it's useful to be. Now, I'm not saying everybody needs to be an expert in all of these. You can't be. I just want to make sure students are aware of them so that they can identify, oh, I have a gap there. Maybe I should, if I want my project to be funded, maybe I should work on that a bit, skill up, or bring somebody into the team who can provide that skill for me. Project management, I think maybe the biggest benefit is just knowing a little project management. It makes it so easy to communicate with so many disciplines, because whether it's an engineer or an accountant or a policymaker, it's a language that tends to be fairly common. Business plan writing and budgeting, this is a joke I had with some of my old professors long ago. You're making a presentation, you want funding to research bats in Monte Verde. One of the first 3 questions you're ever going to get isn't going to be about bats, it's going to be about money. How are you going to pay for it? Where's your budget? And what, right? And a lot of people who graduate from universities, they have a clue how to write a budget plan. And the thing is, you don't have to be good at it, but in the most software, like you can get free budget biz plan writing software, and there'll be the 10 questions or the 20 questions, it's usually built in, where they prompt you on what's the first 20 questions you'd be likely to be asked. If you've already read those before you go to, your department's, your department chair asking for research funding, there's a good chance you're going to have better outcomes. Understanding social justice. So I'm a policy and I'm from Berkeley, so I'm political by DNA, right? But you want to promote a conservation project often by being able to humanize it in terms of social justice can give you extra leverage. Like, I don't know if any of you saw this, but in a lot of urban settings in India, they have electricity. Their houses are 8 feet by 8 feet, the whole house. But they have no light in the daytime because they're trying to save what little energy they can. So their houses are pitch black in the day, right? So some guy came up with the idea of Coke bottles and tin, halfway in, halfway out of the roof. That acts the same as a 40-watt light bulb when you get this bulb. And now you've got a light inside. Anyway, so if I'm promoting renewables, how can I connect it to human benefit? Communications. I bet some of you know Sam Ham. He's one of our board of advisors. He's got students all over Costa Rica, all over the world. I personally think this might be the most important place for environmental studies and sustainability people to skill up. I think generally we're not the best. I'm trying to be nice here. Not the best communicators. We're not good at telling stories in a way that can be digested and not just be crippling. And I'm guilty as hell of doing that, the bottom of the roller coaster. Though I wonder, can you get to the top if you've never been to the bottom? Interesting thing to look into. But anyway, and I think learning a behavior change campaign strategy can be applied in a lot of different places. That behavior change might be in your household, right? Or in your organization, or on a broad national scale. And I think this is the last one, entrepreneurial skills. I think it's reasonable to assume that most of those Berkeley graduates or Stanford graduates or UCR graduates are not going to get jobs in environment and sustainability. If they want that job, they're going to have to create that job. That's what I've always done. And to make success. But even if they don't create that job, if they learn some entrepreneurship and then go to apply to Monte Verde Institute for a job, they're probably going to be much more, they're going to have skills that are going to make them more attractive for hiring. All right? Here's what we're up to briefly. Right now we're mainly focused on the organic agriculture lab. We have a professor, Professor Val Lyons, University of Florida, University of North Dakota, etc. Hydroponics guru. So our first phase is a big hydroponics greenhouse we're working on with the idea of doing low input hydroponics. last night at dinner, I think I mentioned, my bias is always on trying to find sustainability solutions for the poorest people first. You know, anybody with enough money can buy a hydroponic system and install it and have their designer lettuce, right? But that's not what we're into. We're trying to see how we could create systems that will improve food security for people on very, very limited incomes. We are green building ourselves. We want to start up a green business accelerator. Like I said, our focus right now is the ag lab and hydroponics. We're hosting interns, we're providing workshops, we're looking for research collaboration. We want to do a lot of the same things that Monte Verde is doing. Provide logistical support. We have relationships budding with Humboldt State, Berkeley, Cartier, Earth University. We're members of the NAAEE and the International Business Innovation Association. We're actually certified by them in running a business development lab. Greenleaf Education, we're next year starting we're calling them environmental career boot camps. These are for international students. And this is really to generate the income that we need to live on so that we can continue to do the work. People have heard me say this, and it's kind of crass, but it's true. There's nothing sustainable about being broke, right? And my career in sustainability and environment would have been radically different if I had simply had a living wage for it, you know? Just a little bit of money. Not much, I live very simply. So anyway, we're trying to generate revenue through offering these courses, bringing in students from international students, and helping them diagnose their own skills and their own abilities towards being more effective at finding careers that they want and we need to have. I've asked students recently, has anyone ever asked you how you learn? And only one said yes. Sample size is still small, so I've only asked that of about 13 students. Only one person said yes. So I don't know if anybody ever asked you that. How do you learn? And do you actually know how you best learn? Right? I best learn through sitting in seminars and symposiums. It's one of the best ways for me to learn. That and reading. So we have this great opportunity to predict the future, shape the future, give people hope, build a better future. It's a noble cause. I think we need to remember that as educators, you are in a noble cause. There is great nobility and honor in what you are doing. And lastly, I'll just tell you a little story that you never know where real education is going to come from. So I'm probably 19 years old. I'm at Berkeley. I'm involved in a student group that were protesting apartheid and Native American relocation, very activist stuff. And somehow this man, Roberto Vargas, came to talk to our group. And Roberto was a community organizer in Latino communities in California. And back then, they were not powerful like they are now. They had the farm workers, Dolores Huerta and Cesar Chavez, people like that, but not a lot else. Now they're a very powerful factor in California politics. But we talked, and he gave us pointers on how to be more effective organizers and community organizers, and how to piss people off more efficiently, too. And then some of us left, and we walked up by the library. We're sitting on the grass, and we're young, and we're like freaked out. Right? It's like climate change and nuclear war and nuclear power and biodiversity. We've all been there. And he said something I'll never forget. He said, yeah, a lot of bad things are happening right now, and we might not make it, we as human species. He goes, we might not make it, but the good news is that there's plenty of opportunity for everybody to be a hero. So I just want to leave you with that thought of the nobility of what you're doing and the opportunity to be a hero, which I think all of you already are, and to instill that in the younger people who are following